Oh, very awesome. Oh, yeah. He was radical. That was beautiful. Yeah.
Okay, so we're about to begin. My name is Robert, and this is Sophia, and we're doing cultural diversity as it applies to mathematics. How I want to conduct this is, I really want it to be like an open forum. So if anyone has anything to add or any insights or anything, please feel free to jump in, because I believe like collaboratively we can take away a lot more out of this session. We all don't have anything to add to it. It would be good. Okay, so I am going to let, oh, and then the final 10 minutes. Also, I'm going to have it open to just open discussion. We can talk about each other's experiences and see what we can come out with. So I'd like to thank everybody for coming, and I'll let Sophia take it away.
Okay, so we're going to have a little overview. We're going to start with what is cultural diversity? Cultural diversity is the cultural difference that exists between people. And when we talk difference between people, it goes a little bit beyond what's skin color or anything else. It's language, clothing, and traditions. The way the society organizes themselves and the conception of morality, religion, and interaction with the environment. Every single culture has a different way to relate or relation to the environment and how they organize themselves for society. There's some data that we found in the United States. There's almost 300 ethnic groups. 57% of one is white, non-Hispanic, 17.2 is black and non-Hispanic, 1.2 is American Indian, Alaska Native, and 4.6 Asian Pacific Islander, and 19.8 Hispanic.
Out of curiosity, what's the date on those stats?
It was 2010.
2010?
And of course, I think that's going to change regarding in which region that we're in. I mean, in Michigan, probably not going to be as diverse as if we were to go to like one of the southern states. So.
Yes, southern states tend to be more culturally diverse than northern states, just because I guess the weather has a lot to do with it. Michigan is kind of.
But then there's pockets, like I remember working with a teacher in Ann Arbor, and one of their elementary schools has 38 ethnic groups in their elementary school. So that's University of Michigan, you know, population with coming in from all over the world. So there's pockets of it, Michigan, but you know, not a lot.
Right. Yeah, I think when it's as higher is the level of education, the more cultural diverse it gets, and just because when you come from other countries, you want to come to like a great university, like University of Michigan or state. So they're coming from other parts of the world, but we're talking about from, you know, generally overall.
If there's nothing to draw the ethnic diversity, then it's not going to.
Absolutely.
These are a little bit of strategies. Developing a question, problem, or research focus. Survey, literature review, and planning, implementation, monitoring, and further data collection, reflection, and reviewing. This is when we deal with big cultural diverse groups, when we're going to start our teaching or touring or essays, we want to do some developer questions from the research that we might confront with the diverse cultural groups. Sometimes we don't see the, maybe it's cultural diversity can be a struggle from some teachers or for some learnings as a learner, because the language, the strategies sometimes are not the same as as the majority group or of the group that we assimilated to. These are more strategies. We know that the physical environment, the lessons, content, and delivery, social steps, skills, and relationships, they are all linked to each other. The physical environment of the student is gonna influence the lessons, contents, and delivery. The social steps, student relationship, if the teachers have a good relationship or have a good understanding with their students, or as SIs with our students, or a tutor with students, I think that relationship of understanding will help.
Can I add something there? Has anyone heard about how the standardized tests they were saying are culturally impartial, or is how you
Biased.
biased? Okay, you got
Culturally biased.
Yes. So you want to have any experience with that?
I mean, I took them, so.
Okay, would you say that?
Well, I don't know if that's standardized test. I had to take Jerry and TOEFL because I'm foreign. And they said it wouldn't make any difference if I was from a different country, and I think it does make a lot of difference.
Anyone else? Have any?
Even our college, our community college entrance exams for language, they're very biased. So if you come in as an ESL learner, like, is it COP? I can't remember what people take when they, the
compass.
The compass, thank you.
Okay, yeah.
The compass, that's, so, actually somebody at our college is developing something for ESL learners because, it's part of her PhD work, because we, if you take the compass and you don't have that language background, you may speak English some, but you still don't have some of the cultural, configurations.
Right.
Or terms, so, so somebody may be very, very bright and take, and not do well in the compass, and then they get put in developmental classes when actually they're willing to work very hard with the language issues in a regular ed class, so it's very complex right now.
Yeah, we are going to address that with the language
Yeah.
coming up.
That's my experience too. I'm from a second country, and I came here 3 years ago. And taking this entrance test, I've got experience that, this has to do, some of the questions that I feel like this has to do with the culture that you are in. I can't answer these questions, and I have that for you.
Right. And what I would encourage students to do, and it's very challenging, is to speak up on that. Try to find a faculty advocate for yourself, because many of our administrators don't understand that piece, and it's really a very big concern.
It's not the
very
content
big concern.
that they need help with.
Yeah.
It's not
Just
the,
the understanding of the
Right.
questions.
Right,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's just a relation. Like my cousins that speak English as a second language seem to not do as well on some of the questions, like story problems in mathematics, where you need a background to understand what's going on.
Mhm.
Exactly right.
exactly.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Even if they understand all of the words in a problem, right? If the problem is about baseball or some sport that they don't
Yeah.
have an
Yes.
answer,
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Because it doesn't give you all information needed unless you were raised in this country.
They assume you know what baseball is.
Or food,
Right.
or whatever, yeah, it's
Yeah.
really, sad. It's really sad, because when I think of you coming from wherever you came from to the US, just doing that puts you at another, at a point
Right.
above. But
And I
we don't
think-
see that.
And I think most of the material that is provided for college students, it is assuming that they know the content. Maybe when we come from another country like myself, we come and read, and you have no idea what they're talking about, but the material is made assuming that you know
Right.
what's going on. So it is a big issue. And the social peer relationships, sometimes when you come, or as a cultural diverse, and if you don't assimilate, it is hard to create the peer relationships. And it does influence on your academic.
You know, can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Okay, one of the things that we did here at Jackson Community College, we aren't doing it right now because of politics. And the person who was in charge of our ESL students got moved to another position. But we had what we called, and it really helped, conversation buddies. So I'm in charge of teacher education, so my students with the students who were coming from different countries, we purposely paired them up, and they met once a week, kind of like an SI. And we had certain things that they were supposed to talk about, but as they got to know each other, we were thrilled when they talked about places to go on Friday night, and what really is the prom, and all these little crazy things about the US. So it really helped them in a very nice, formal way to develop a friendship without, and have somebody they could trust, you know, to speak with. So that might be something some of your colleges might, you know, Susan, Brenda, you could talk to Robert, he knows how to get a hold of us.
Yeah, I think building that, helping the students with just a social network, you know, just becoming friends with them helps to alleviate a lot of those barriers that they may be feeling, just being friends, so.
Order of organization, consistency or application of behavior policy, clarity of behavior, expectation, reward systems. The order and organization of the colleges, and sometimes they are made up for some understanding, but when you don't speak the language, it is kind of applied to, like I say, in all the rules and all the applications for the reward system. Sometimes they're not made enough for everyone to understand them, or with the understanding that some other people would not have the same, they won't look and clearly understand the meaning of the paperwork or anything that it can be provided for the student.
Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna kind of focus it on the mathematics, because that's, I'm an SI here, that's what I basically focus on is math and going into math education. And Sophia's also math SI, and I believe there's a few more guys out there, so that's what we're gonna focus on.
We have a little quote here. Learning becomes a process of changing participation in changing communities of practice in which an individual's resulting knowledge becomes a function of the environment in which he or she operates. Okay, does anyone wants to give any thought about this? Well, I first put it up there because I thought that the environment, it does influence students, whether they are part of the minority or majority group. When we talk about culturally diverse groups, the process of changing on the communities, it becomes a challenge sometimes. For some students, to come to in another country and trying to adapt to their normal ways to the routines and keep on with them. Sometimes it does takes a lot from the individual. But the more that the practice and the changes they work with, then it starts. It's like the little circle habitat. You apply it, you engage it, you explore it, you explain it. It's like that for I think for all students overall in mathematics, because mathematics, it's already a hard,
It's already a hard
it's
subject,
already a hard
yes.
subject to understand.
It's like a foreign language almost,
Yes.
because how I think about math is, it's not like other subjects to where you might be able to just memorize a definition and be good on a test, because you have to be able to apply that concept, which is kind of like another language where if you memorize a word, you might know it if it's spoken in this sentence, but all of a sudden you use that word in another sentence and you don't recognize it or you don't know what it is. So it's kind of like the same thing with math. You have to kind of pick up on the underlying back concept of it, yes, sir.
Yeah. You know, everybody has this fear, and as I am a math, I don't know why this fear is among people that math is terribly hard, and I think children growing up get this concept from their adults, their parents, that math is hard, and I think it's not the way. I think math as learning a language, you know, as you were saying. If you know the basics, like if you know how to pronounce a word and make a sentences, frame sentences, then you know how to read and write.
Right.
And learning mathematics, I think, is building a foundation. The stronger your foundation is, the more you're going to learn.
Can I ask you, in your country when you were a child, I don't know how long you've been here, was math viewed as hard? Like
Well,
when you were 6 and 7 and 8, did you
Well,
think math was hard to?
okay. Listen, to me, my parents were never gone to school. They never went to school.
Okay,
So I never knew math is hard
okay.
as a child. So I never got this concept that math is hard. And nobody should get it at it.
Well, then, because there's an assumption among teachers in general, in early training, I don't know what it is now, that math is pretty much the same all over the world. Because it's very concrete, you know.
2 plus 2 is 4.
2 plus 2 is 4. Dos plus dos is cuatro. Okay, whatever. So when you are a second language learner in the US, well, you're gonna get math because it's the same all over the world. Which it isn't, because there's so much culture in math if they're connecting it to the real world. So, you know, I think that's something we have to reteach the teachers of math. It isn't, 2 plus 2 might be 4 all over the world, but there's a lot of cultural connection in the process of learning.
What you're saying is true, but I have seen with some students that universal nature of mathematics has become comforting to them when that's the only thing they're able to communicate to other people because their language doesn't.
Right. That's where they feel they can make a personal, strong connection.
Right.
One thing, and I didn't even think I'd ever share this with anybody, but in the 90s, I had a grant, and I was teaching high school, and part of my grant was to survey first graders. And the research that I found out was by first grade, children had a concept of whether math was hard or easy, and science also. So the research was showing that it's from their family. So see, your family didn't give you any bias. My family, my husband's a mathematician and I like math, so my children are not afraid of math at all. But when I ask students in college or in high school, why are you afraid of math? Well, my mom said it's really hard. And you know, it's that generational piece.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying, you know.
Yes.
So this is, I think we gotta change.
It's huge.
Being as SI for mathematics and being with the students for so long, I mean, I was a teacher back in Nepal, you know, the country I came from. And I was so sad that these kids are coming up with this idea that the math is hard. And it's in this country too.
Yeah.
And you
I think
this
it's
idea,
required.
as you were saying, the kids get this idea even first, second grade.
Right. First
And
graders.
that's really bad.
Yeah.
It was shocking. It was shocking to me to see this research.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, and it goes back to the environment.
Let's
Okay.
not parents, but bad teachers in school too. So you already have a bad foundation in math. I had a horrible teacher in high school when I was afraid of math, and I struggled with math. I tutored math. I did great in math in college. I had a great professor, but for years I was scared of math.
Yeah, and I see what you're saying because my daughter is 9 years old and she came home and she said, "Mom, my teacher says she hates math."
I think I don't know that teacher.
I was like, "Say that to you?" Well, to the class, he said yes. So I was like, don't worry. We go through it, and I help you with it if you have any questions. But again, yeah, she is right. There's teachers that
Right.
say they hate math, so they're trying to avoid it, and
And they do
that's
avoid
not a
it.
good thing.
I did hear a statistic where math teachers, which I'm going to be, are the least favorite teachers in the building. So I'm like, all right, I'm going out of the gate doing good. Popular teacher there. So
That puts
but
us in a
had-
favorable position though, right? Because then they can come to us and we're their saviors. Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. I think just by making it interesting, fun, trying to get that perception of, you know, and I think it's just the critical thinking skill. You know what I mean? Some people might not wanna or don't like just it's critical thinking.
Yeah.
What you gotta do for
Yeah.
math. It's not just sit there, read, and memorize this sentence, and you're good.
Yeah.
So,
Let me add to that. I think it has to do with our school systems also, and how we train how we teach our kids in school, like primary schools and like that. Because I tutor ISI Calculus 3, which is supposed to be the high level course in a community college now, and instructor was asking the other day, do you know if you she was dividing 253 something by 3, and she was asking to the student, quick way to know whether it is divisible or not. You add these numbers and to see if it's divisible, and kids were like, what?
So they
You
weren't
don't
learning
know
the
this
visibility test.
basic skill in your high school, and how you get up to calculus 3. So I think we gotta develop I think a system even in our high school where they learn the basic stuff in math and come up through that foundation.
so I think it's keeping it fresh too. I mean, a year or 2 years off. I know, like when I came back to college, it was a long time since I was in school, so remembering those rules is very difficult. But
Do you want to do that?
doing it, yeah.
I think it's what you said, there's so many of our elementary school teachers right in the formative years who are afraid of math. And I teach a lot of either the specific math for elementary school teachers or requirements for elementary school teachers. And there's a lot of them that like math, but there's also, I would say, at least half of them that they get through with, a B minus or a C, got through it, but they're not comfortable with it. And then they go into the class, it's just something, it's a hurdle that they had to pass to be able to be a teacher. And then they get to the classroom, they don't like math, they're scared that it was something that was their weak point. They went into teaching because they really wanted to work with the second and the third graders, but math is the one thing. So I think that it has to be something, different in our training of teachers.
Yes.
That we shouldn't let them go out there until they're comfortable. Instead of just letting them get a C or a B in something and thinking, that's over. and then letting them loose in their classrooms. Teaching them should be really skilled and really thorough, so that by the time they go into the classroom, they're comfortable.
It's a larger social problem where in this culture we've accepted mathematical illiteracy as something that's okay, right? If you go up to somebody and say, "Man, I hate reading. I never learned how to read. That's stupid." They'll look at you and be crazy. But if you say the exact same thing with math, they'll maybe even relate to you if not, just say, "Sure, okay." Right. So how is that happening? So that's the problem.
Yeah.
It has to do the perception also. The perception a lot, I think. Way you perceive math as from your early days.
And there's a question of who's becoming teachers these days when we're paying them nothing, right? When the people who may be truly gifted teachers aren't going into teaching because they can go into something more lucrative.
you're speaking my language, but, one thing, just so you know this, the cut scores for teachers in Michigan in math, they have to take a math test. It's the Michigan Basic Skills Test, and that name is changing, but the cut scores are also, they're moving them up. So teachers have to do a better job in their math test score when they apply as teachers. Just, I mean, that's really one step in the right direction. So there's hope at the end somewhere.
And this is a little bit of what we just talked about, the commitment of teachers to students, the individual resources, and the teachers' social use of resources. So this is what we were just talking about a little bit. Now, for some students, mathematics is speaking another language. We have put some cards on you guys', and it has some mathematics stuff in there. Does anybody can tell me what the card is it in mathematics? Wait, what you got?
7 times 7.
Yeah,
8 minus 6.
okay. 7 plus 3. 7 plus 3.
Google Translate says
Ah.
2/3.
Is this 7 decimal or 7 decimal?
So I'd like to, there was a student once that I worked with. He was in one of my classes and he spoke English, you know, very well. And he was having problems on his tests. So he came to me and we were, I was working with him and I didn't pick up at first that it was the language barrier because he had just moved to the US from Mexico, so and he spoke to him and just talking to him, you would never realize that it was that. But like the number portion of the test, he would do great, but it was those story problems. So when I was trying to work with him then, it kind of took me by surprise because I was, in order to try to help him with that, I didn't know how to explain it well to him, like in the language, because my Spanish is terrible to where to help him. So we managed to like overcome that problem. But has anyone else had any students that were like English as a second language and trying to work with them and teach them the concept when the communication barrier there is adding to the difficulty of it?
I've been teaching a student for the last semester. It hasn't been like a second language barrier, but he has cerebral palsy. And he hasn't been able to, he can't speak really. He can say some words, like shout out some numbers or whatnot. And I have to teach him beginning algebra. And it's a struggle. It really is, trying to figure out a way to help him understand the material without us ever really having a conversation.
What kind of strategy are you using, or have you found something that like works? Or I know it's probably based upon an individual student and their needs, but
The best thing that I've done is we've made this book, and it's got all the math symbols that we will need, well, the major ones that we'll need, and it's got all the numbers. And on the other side of it, it has an alphabet, so that if he ever does need to talk to me or tell me where something needs to go, because he can point to things, but he can't actually write. So it's hard. It's difficult.
that's a good idea.
If you checked with the special education, there's so many electronic tools for special ed students that, have you ever checked?
Yeah, we've tried it. We've checked with them and everything, but I guess there's just not the resources available that we can't really do much about it. So, but he is doing very well with us.
Well, we have here, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I work with a Chinese lady that I've been friends with for about 20 years, and she's recently decided to go back to college, and she's in her 40s, and her biggest barrier is not that she knows the operation, she's actually really good in math, but when she reads a story problem, she doesn't translate that of means to multiply. Or that, so those are the things that I work with her. They don't use commas, they don't use decimal, well, they use commas as decimals in China. So they just automatically know that the last two digits or there are a decimal place. So for me, it's just going through and translating to her with a symbol, this word means to do this operation, and then from there, she can pretty much take it. But it is just
It is a transition.
a language barrier.
We have here a little short video, and it's probably the way that some of us or most of the people look at
What is the best number? By the way, there's only one correct answer.
5,318,008?
Wrong. The best number is 73. You're probably wondering why. 73 is the 21st prime number. Its mirror, 37, is the 12th. And its mirror, 21, is the product of multiplying, hang on to your hats, 7 and 3. Did I lie?
We did it. 73 is the Chuck Norris of numbers.
Chuck Norris wishes. In binary, 73 is a palindrome, 1001,001, which backwards is 1001,001. Exactly the same. All Chuck Norris backwards gets you is Ciron Cook.
So that's how sometimes some students see math as like, it's there, they just need a little push up to understand it and to apply to it. It's a little bit more than what we're talking about. Sometimes it can be that simple, but not for them. And it is that very. This is a little concept that we found. It's called ethnomathematics. And it's the knowledge and the cultural perspective that is viewed as a version of ethnomathematics. So the word, it breaks down into two parts. Ethno being as a culturally identifiable groups. Mathema defined as categories of knowledges. And text defined as methods and techniques. And this is a little closer thing that we thought about. It will be good. It says mathematics is one of the essential dimensions of the human spirit, a thing to be valued in and for itself, like art and poetry. So sometimes we don't value the mathematics as much as probably we would. We value poetry, we value art, but I think mathematics, it can be valued as well.
Okay, so what I'd like to do is just kind of open it up like for discussion. What I've noticed as far as assigning for a few years now that I have, the material itself is not difficult to teach the person as it is to change the attitude of, I suck at math. I could tell you if I had a nickel for every time I'm tired, you know what I mean? Or math sucks, or I hate math, I'm no good at it, I'll never get it.
What am I learning this for?
Yeah, what am I gonna use this for? And, you know, culture has a lot to do with it. I think, you know, social economics, just all the different varieties of diversity out there, everything goes into that. So, any insights, thoughts?
I think the environment of the students has a big influence on the attitude that we have. I have a couple of students that the environment is so stressed out, they come to class and really like, I just can't get it, just can't do it, I have this and this and this going on. There is a problem about creating that positive attitude with the students, and not just just a specific cultural students, just overall students. We do want to make it a little more available for culturally diverse students because it is becoming a problem to express those teaching or those materials to the students, especially when it comes to mathematics and other subjects. But mathematics, it is a big issue for diverse cultural students.
So I think being an SI or teacher, we need to keep it positive, you know, and be
Open.
Be open, positive. I know I always like love it when that light bulb comes on and the student's like, I figured it out, you know, and it just, that's like the best thing. I'm like, there you go. Now do the rest of it. So I sit back and watch. I'm like, there you go, my job's over. I'm gonna sit here and watch now.
You know, I took a statistics class here, and I understand that frustration. I'm willing to work at it, but I kept asking the instructor, how can this, give me a real world example of this. And they never ever could give that. Well, we'll do that later. And I think, is there any books out there for math teachers for real world examples?
They should do that.
I think, well, I don't know.
That would help a lot of our students.
Yeah, some of the, well, I'm taking the statistics now, and some of the examples that we have, I think are more like, well, they're more approaching the life real experience now. Probably they have changed it, but the ones that we deal with in the statistics, they're more like
But you
real
know,
life.
if there was some resource for anybody who's an SI, anyone, you know, you could sell almost anybody on something if they, I mean, my husband's a mathematician. He goes, you don't need a real life example for that. I goes, yes, I do. So, you know,
Well, I want to say, I'm a math instructor, and I know I'm weird because I collect old math books. And one of them I have from, I think, somewhere around 19